Guys, welcome back to another episode of Pretty Psycho Podcast. I'm your host, Nav. To my left, I have my co-host,
Tracy, and in front of us, we've got a guest today. It's a bit different. We've got Carl. So Carl has this TikTok page, Instagram page. He talks a lot about knife crime, amongst a lot of other things, but I'm going to let him introduce himself for now.
Yeah, so I'm Cole Scott, other side of TWOSADUO through social media. Started TikTok about a year ago, actually, me and my missus. And originally I was doing things on my own and my missus was doing her thing. She did modelling and stuff. So we had like separate social media platforms. And then we decided about a year ago, let's just set up a page together because we called it TWOSADUO as a brand because two's better than one. So two heads are better than one. And we work well together. So because of all the stuff that we was doing in the community, we thought, well, we might as well just set it up together and just roll with it. And then we rolled with it, and the page has ended up being the page that it is, really. I think with the stuff like around knife crime and stuff like that, and youth projects and youth work, like we set up the project together from our sofa, just set up a website. Luckily, I had a lot of contacts anyway already from previous work that I'd had, because I'd done this work since like 2018, but didn't publicise a lot of it. So kind of like kept it kind of like close to my chest, really, and just went out and did all the work. It was quite successful, as to say. But then when you see social media is quite a big platform, and you're able to get a lot of stuff across on platforms like that, and you're able to raise more awareness and have a lot more adults as well as young people see stuff that you're actually doing, which they can actually relate to. So then that's how it really started.
That's sick.
it's a good page.
Yeah,
There's a lot of great information on there, to be honest.
TWOSADUO, guys, make sure you check it out.
Check them out.
Yeah, so we're just going to start off with something a bit different. So we do have some questions for you. But before we do that, we want to highlight the fact knife crime is a very, very real thing, especially in London, especially in the UK. It is on the increase. We do have some statistics that we kind of found out, which actually genuinely
We
shocked
were
us.
shocked.
Like,
we were sitting there and...
Yeah. And I did sociology and criminology, so those statistics have increased a lot since I last graduated. But so in the 12 months leading to March 2024, there has been a recorded 50,510 recorded police events involving knife crime or sharp instruments. That's basically like any crime that can cause like stabbing or anything where you are actively harming or using something to threaten or harm someone else.
So this is on average 4,110 offences per month. Of those statistics, almost 240 ended in death.
That's basically on average 20 deaths per month. In a 12-month period, 20 deaths.
Insane.
Due to knife crime. That's not a normal statistic. And I think if we look back on 2023, 2022, 2021, that statistic was a lot lower than it is now. And I think now there's so much accessibility to knives, and obviously there's a lot of crackdown from police on that, but it's just not.
But is it working though?
It's not enough. Like, and you've got people as young as 14, 15 using knives on
Younger
other
than
people.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I know at least 3 people who have been threatened at knife point. Obviously, thankfully, nothing has happened to them. I know people who have been stabbed. Like, it's insane because I think at least one of us, like, or all of us, know at least someone who's been stabbed.
100%.
Like, that's not a normal thing, especially in such a youthful city like London.
I think if you look at, since 2018, there's been 564 young people that have died through knife crime. And I think them statistics are including anything that's classed as a bladed article. So that can be a piece of glass, it can be anything that's bladed, anything that's sharp in a sharp instrument.
Yeah.
So they've risen to, like, it's the highest it's ever been recorded, 50,000. And I think it's still continually rising as well. But I think the whole knife crime thing, it's turned into something that's it's fashionable now.
It's glamorized now, isn't it?
100%, yeah. And it's like what we try and look at is why. Why is it so glamorized? Why is it so fashionable for young people to carry knives? When you speak to kids themselves and you try and find out the reasoning behind why they're carrying them, probably 80% of them will be saying it's just for protection. But then what you've got to look at then is the angle of what they're protecting themselves from. Why do you feel the need to carry a knife just to protect yourself? Some of them will be involved in naughty behaviour. Some of them won't. Some of them, I know of kids that have been jumped that's not even involved in that stuff.
Yeah.
But now they're scared to leave their house. But they'll only leave a house if they've got a knife in their pocket, not with an intention of using it. But what they need to realise is that actually they might become a point for you to use it. But if you ain't got the knife on you, there's nothing to use.
Yeah.
So then you've got like, there's two risk factors that go in there, like especially when it comes to families, because now a family could be potentially losing you for either you going to prison or you dying. It's going to be one or the other.
Yeah.
So what we try and do is debunk the factors of carrying knives, because you are actually 50% more likely of being harmed with a knife if you're carrying one rather than not at all. So it's a hard task, completely hard task, and it's a continual thing that you have to keep doing and doing and doing. But I think that you'll hear a lot of public will always have something to say about it. The police need to do more, the police need to do this, the government need to do this, or the government need to do that. Well, actually, no, education starts at home, really. We need to be doing more at home, because what we've got an issue with is us as adults, the influence has gone away from the kids. So we don't really influence our own children anymore. Their influence is found outside on road, or the influence is found out on social media. Yeah. So if you look at like back in the 90s, for example, before all this social media stuff started, a young person that could have been bullied, for example, had a safe space, and the safe space would have been their bedroom. But now they haven't got a safe space anymore because their phone goes with them everywhere. So if they're being bullied at school and they go home, they're still going to be bullied at home, because they'll just go on Snapchat or they'll get a message come through on Instagram or something, and it will continue. So they don't get any time off from it. And this is where then obviously young people's suicide or the self-harm is rising, because there's no safe space for kids anymore. So when you've got young people that are arguing with each other, you've either got young people arguing with each other through drill songs, back and forth.
Yeah.
And not only just young people, you've got like, you know, early 20s, late 20s that are still doing it, and they're arguing back and forth with each other. But then you've got arguments going back and forth on your Snapchats, your Instagrams and your TikToks, even with nothing to do with songs, and it's just going backwards and forwards. Then you get WhatsApp groups that have been set up, and then you get people posting pictures of people on social media and stuff. So it constantly goes round in circles. So young people, like, I feel sorry for young people, because they're going through the mix of it, and we didn't have to. Well, I didn't at my age. I didn't have to go through this as a child. Like, but the kids now, and the stuff that they've got to, that they feel that they have to become socially accepted, is too much, because you've got, like, for girls, for example. So you'll have your Kim Kardashians, and you've got your bikini models, and you've got your girls that, you know, have Botox and have their lips and boob jobs and stuff like that. Young girls are looking at these as inspiration. They want to be like that, you know. So now they're feeling that that's socially accepted.
Yeah,
you know, it's a lot of pressure. And then you've got the same when it comes to young boys. Young boys want to have a nice girlfriend, a nice looking girl. They want to have a nice car. They want to have jewelry and wear the nice clothes. But then they're looking at the other celebrities that are also wearing this nice stuff, so they want to be like that. But then they're looking up at the wrong people. So what they want to be is they want to be themselves, be you. Because if you want stuff like that, you can actually get it if you put your mind to it. Yeah. Set yourself certain goals to be able to achieve that. Give yourself a timeline to actually set them goals and achieve them. Don't think that this stuff is instant gratification and you can get this stuff like that, because it's impossible unless you're selling thousands and thousands of pounds worth of, you know, wrong things that you shouldn't be selling, you know. And I think that is an instant gratification thing. But what comes with that is a lot of risks. And the only thing that usually comes with that is death or prison.
Yeah, it is true. I can't lie. I think young people in this generation, even the generation just before, like us, like, or even us, I think. So I don't know. Are we young anymore? I don't know. But I think, like, with young people in general, I think they're expected to grow up so quickly. Like, and it's sort of like this, like, I think before, when I was in school, a long time ago now, but when I was in school, people weren't really selling drugs as much. They weren't doing. But my little sister, she's 13. When she was in the UK, she was about 10, and she used to come to me. She's like, Tracy, people are vaping at school. People are selling weed at school. And that was primary school. That wasn't secondary school. That wasn't, yeah. And it's like, you got young people, even my little brother, he knows words he should never know. Like, it's just sort of like this thing where young people are quickly becoming adults and they're quickly taking on the lifestyle that maybe they see at home or they see on the streets or they see on TV shows or social media more than anything. And it's just, it's sad. It's very sad.
Because they think it's cool, it's glamorized. Like, if you see all these rappers and stuff, they're wearing all these big chains, they've got all these girls
They're
around them, they've
rented
got
anyway,
money.
half of them. They don't even own them. Do you know
But
what I
that's
mean?
what they're seeing, aren't they? Like, little kids are impressionable. Like, come on, when you're in primary school, secondary school, say if there was someone in the year above you and they're telling you to do something, most of the time you would do it. And that's what's happening.
Yeah,
And it's
do you
really
know my
sad.
parents used to say to me, if he told you to put your hand in a fire, would you do it? Yeah, probably. Because like you're
You're trying to impress them.
you're trying to get a reputation, and you're like, and some people try, and some kids try and get this reputation for a reason. They're trying to do it because it helps them have that barrier there. So if you've got like the reputation of being a bad boy, and you'll fight anybody, the chances of anyone coming near you to even try and start drama with you is going to be pretty slim, because that you've got that there. But actually underneath that you're a pussy anyway. You can't even fight, but you have that there, that exterior of no, don't come near me. Yeah, but actually you're just a scared boy anyway. I was the same as that age. I was a small kid. What was I? I'm not really tall now, but when I was young, when I was like 13, 14, I was no taller. I was about 5'9". That's 4'9", sorry. 4'9" is really tiny. So I was small, blonde hair, blue eyes, didn't even look like I'd harm a fly, but I wouldn't melt in the mouth kind of looking kid.
Yeah.
But because I was hanging around with elders, I was getting away with a lot of stuff. So it was easy because then the reputation was built quite quickly. Yeah. So, and no one would come near me because of the people I was hanging around with. And you take advantage of that. So when you take advantage of that, you could be cheeky and lippy to anybody. Because they think, actually, Carl hangs around with blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we'll just allow that one. We won't even do anything. And then you're like, and you just start taking the piss even more. And that's exactly what happened. But that doesn't happen for a very long time. It doesn't last long, because then as a result of behaving like that, I get stabbed anyway. So young people think they're invincible sometimes. And some kids that I work with think they're invincible. But then I'll have a session with them 3 weeks later and they say, oh my God, someone tried to shank me the other day. Well, you're not invincible, then are you? Because if you were, no one would be trying. Exactly. But they don't, they just don't understand it till it's too late. And hopefully you'll survive to understand. Do you know what I mean? Because if you don't survive, you're never going to understand, because you're not going to be alive anymore. It's your parents that's going to be left with that impact. And that's devastating.
I don't think kids think about that though.
No.
I don't think that's
I think we all walk around like we can do anything. Like even something as small as driving, you're speeding, driving, drink driving, whatever it is, you don't think something's going to happen because you think you're on top of the world.
Think,
like, you
not
can
me.
do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be me. Like, you hear about, this person crashed. They were tired and they were driving home on the motorway and they crashed and they died. And you think, I can drive good when I'm tired anyway. So it's the same concept. It's like, you just think you're just the shit, essentially. So you just think, I can just do whatever.
It's never going to happen to me.
People say, I've had conversations with people, they'll be like, oh, what's it like in prison? Like, I'd never go to prison. I'm like, why? So where you talk about the driving thing, it's quite easy to just drive down the road and knock someone over at a zebra crossing. You're done for death by then just driving there. But unfortunately, you're probably going to go to jail for 2 years.
It's like that guy, that guy that did balloons and run off the motorway.
Yeah.
And he went to prison because he killed 2 people.
Yeah, but he was doing
Rightfully so,
he
doing balloons while driving is like drink driving to a point where you're too drunk. Like, people do it all the time. But then you have
people that are driving that are going 3 mile an hour over the speed limit. But because you've gone 3 mile an hour over the speed limit and you've knocked somebody over and they've died, you've committed a crime because you're 3 mile an hour over the speed limit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's as easy as that. Someone could just walk out with a pushchair on the road and you're going 3 mile an hour over the speed limit, and that speed limit's there for a reason. Even though, I'm not going to say everybody sticks to the speed limit, because they don't. Because if sometimes you're driving 30 miles an hour, you feel like you're crawling in your car. You don't even think you're going that fast. Yeah. But actually you are. But when it's coming to stopping, that's the speed that you're supposed to be at. Because when you're pushing them brakes and you're skidding down the road, the impact that person has at 30, 25, and it's let's say you're doing a 40 mile an hour and a 30 limit, that's an impact that you're going to be having. Hence why that's set in place for you to be doing that speed limit in the first place. So that there is now going to you're going to jail. So you're sitting there, you've never committed a crime in your life. You've never even stole a Mars bar. but yet you've just crashed into someone on a road and you're now going
It
to
can happen
prison.
to anyone. Like,
Yeah.
it really
Of
can.
course. Just like I say, anyone can be homeless at any time.
Yeah, of course.
Don't take it for granted that you've got a roof over your head.
100%.
Or don't go around
that.
town and being judgmental about the people that are sat outside the
Yeah.
local banks begging for money because they're homeless, because that could be you.
Yeah.
You never know what's around the corner
Life
for
takes
you.
turns, like
100%, yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched your interview with Good Morning Britain as well,
Yeah.
and we saw on there you used to be in gangs,
Mhm.
right? So what do you think? What circumstances happened in your life which made you turn to gangs?
I think it was a sense of security, because my upbringing wasn't the best, and there's been things that have happened throughout my life that I'd lost all trust and respect for adults, as to say. We'll say when it comes to family anyway. And I then kind of found that outside my home and not within my family setting that I should have found it, really. And it all started in a youth club for me. So I was in a youth centre, and there was a lot of older boys, as to say, in there. And we didn't really have much money when I was a kid. Like, it was really, like, growing up in the 90s, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And you've got your parents that are working as many jobs as they can to put food on the table, which half the time they're not at home. I was basically a babysitter for my brother and sister, so I'd do the school runs, pick them up, because I was expelled from school at an early age. So I was already out. Like, I was able to do what I wanted throughout the day. So I was causing chaos, do you know what I mean? But then I'd pick up my brother and sister from school, then I'd get back, and then I weren't allowed to go out really until my parents got back from work. And sometimes they wouldn't get back till like 6 o'clock at night. So then it's evening. So now I'm going out after 6 o'clock. And then if there was times that I'd have to be home by, because who I was hanging around with, I wouldn't be back on time. So then, you know, nowadays you can't smack your kids or nothing like that. But I used to get whacked as a kid. Like, you know, you get 5 minutes late, wow, and then you're literally running up the stairs trying to hold your ass. Like, no, leave me alone. Do you know what I mean? But I found this youth club, and where, you know, as a kid I'd say, oh, can I have 10p for like a chump bar or something? You know, no, I can't afford it. So where you get told that so much, it's then, all right, I'll just go and take it then. So then I'd just walk into a shop and I would take your chocolate bars, and that's how it start. And then in the youth club, I'd see these older lads, they was all like drinking all the expensive drinks and eating the expensive crisps, and I wanted to do that. Like, how are you not being able to spend all that? You're like, what was they, 16, 17, 18 years old, and like, where are you getting your money from to do that? So I started spending more time with them. But at the same time I was doing that, I was boxing in the gym that was running out of the youth club at the same time. So I think the coach saw that I was a potential to be getting myself into more trouble than what I should be getting involved in. So he tried to steer me out of it. And although I enjoyed doing the boxing, I still enjoyed doing stuff with them at the same time. So I wasn't really putting 100% into what I should have been doing as a diversionary activity, is to say something positive, because I still was getting some form of excitement out of like causing trouble with these boys. So that's how it kind of originally started. And then we all became really good mates. I had kids, like pals from like real young childhood as well. And we all then just started to like run together and just cause absolute nightmares in the community, really. It was mainly around antisocial stuff to start with. Like, I don't know, just smashing car and just being knobs, really.
It's like criminal damage, just little things.
Just minor things. And then it started with the drug dealing for older people, and like back we had a lot of Jamaicans in our area from where I'm from. So we was doing like little runs for them and just making a little bit of change and stuff. Well, I say a little bit of change for that, like £20 back in the 90s was a lot of cash. Do you know what I mean? So we'd be doing that and doing little runs for them, and then that's how it slowly started to integrate. And then we was just kind of like one set team, as to say. And
was you like really engrossed in it at that time? Like that,
there wouldn't have been no getting me out. That was the life I was leading, and that I found. I don't know. It was just that was just what at that time I wanted to do, and I didn't feel. I weren't at school. I was hardly at home. And then by the time it was getting worse, my parents broke up. So I was literally fending for myself. So I was in the care system at that point then. So I was in, what would you call it? Local authority hostels. So whilst I was in these local authority hostels, there was also like younger people in there and others that was on the stuff that I was selling. So then obviously that's a moneymaker being in there. So it was, I was just wrapped around it. There was no getting... At that point, I weren't even looking for a way out. So when I look back, you look back now and I think, was there a way out of it? But I don't think at that point there were. Even where the violence then started to come into it, I don't think there was ever you feel like you're stuck.
Yeah, I've had that quite, similar situations.
And you could say you could say that you're scared at the same time, because it's a weird situation to be in. Because I say it's a weird situation to be in, but you don't know you're in the situation for it to be weird until you're out of it.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you think, mate, that was like weird.
I get that.
Do you know what I mean? Because then you look at, like for now, for example, the way young people are involved in that life, they are physically exploited and groomed into it.
Yeah.
And can you say that that's what happened to me? Yeah, I was quite vulnerable. And then when you're looking at, like, let's say county line gangs now and gangs, you're looking for vulnerable. That's what you want. Because the vulnerables are the best to be working with you.
And stuff as
yeah,
well.
Definitely. They're so
and especially
easy.
where I've heard it so much, like when you were saying that you didn't get that love at home, so you found it in like that kind of setting. I've heard that so many times. That's actually...
That happens a lot. I think when people when they got, even kids that have got problems at home, just anyone vulnerable. And it's quite sad because a lot of gangs do prey on young children. A lot of them 13, 14, 12, whatever, and they do prey on them, and then it becomes a thing where it's like they're so engrossed in that lifestyle now they can't get out, and it's like you start off doing it because you want a certain lifestyle, you want to lead a certain lifestyle, and then you just end up trapped, and the only way out is death, prison, or
just death in prison.
Literally, that's it, death in prison, and like even prison you can come out and do the same thing again, because there's that cycle where you can't get a job, you can't get a job, you can't go anywhere in life, and you feel trapped again, so you go back to it because of the lifestyle, and then you just don't get out of it. The thing is
as well, because it's like they're the only people you know, so you haven't got any other friends, you've got no other network, so you let's say you go to jail, when you come out, who are you meeting up with? Because you ain't got no new friends. Like, you haven't just made new friends. And if anything, if you've made new friends, they're in jail anyway. So they're all still involved in what you're doing because you've just met them in jail. So there's no, you're like stuck in a rut. Excuse me, you're stuck in a rut. So there's no way out, really. So this is where, like, when you've got services and certain systems in place in the community, you've got like certain, like now, for example, back then there was nothing like it, but you've got like child exploitation services, you've got child sexual exploitation services, you've got gang services, like you've got so many different services that are there, but you've now basically got to build that rapport up with their young people to make them feel safe enough for you to be able to be involved with them, to get them away from it. And that's the issue that you have, because it's not an easy task to have. There's one in London, St Giles Trust, and they're Junior Smart. I don't know if you've heard of him. Look him up. He's a guy, ex-gang member, CEO of the company. And I think about 70% of their employment of the people that work for them are ex-gang. So they all understand. They've been there, they've done it, they've got the T-shirt, and they know how to be with the kids, and they know how to talk to them, and they know what the stuff that they're going through.
Yeah, because I think if you've been through it...
Yeah, it makes it easier. Yeah. Makes it a lot easier. I could go in front of a kid and I've got his rapport in 10 minutes. Just in 10 minutes. It's that simple. But the issue that you have then, because you're now a professional, is they can say too much to you, which you then have to report.
Yeah.
You have to. It's part of your policy that you've got to do that. So it sounds mad, but in some senses, I say, stop talking. I don't need to hear anymore. Stop talking. Yeah. Why? Just don't say anymore. Yeah. Unless I ask you, don't say anymore, because I have to, it's part of my policy. I've got to report that. Now, I don't want to break down that rapport and that barrier with you by you now thinking that I'm feeding this information to all these services, because I've got no choice. Unless you're in danger, or somebody else is in danger, or their life's in danger, don't tell me. unless I'm asking you that question.
Yeah.
So when we're having conversations, what I try and do in my work with kids is I like to find out about them. Who are they as a person? Not what you're up to. I don't need that right now. I need to know what you're up to, what you like as a person, what are your strengths. Tell me what you're good at. Do you go to school regular? Nah. So I'll follow that education part of it. Okay. So the next week will come. How's school gone this week? Yeah, I managed to go to school 3 times this week and I didn't get a detention. Perfect. So then you can start praising them for the good stuff. So the more that they're getting praised on the good stuff, the negatives are now disappearing and the positives are outweighing that. So then when you start having them conversations about, well, hold on a minute. Yeah, look, you feel that you messed up yesterday, but look at like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week. That smashed it. If you're telling yourself and you're giving yourself that self-negative talk that you can't do good things. Well, last week you did good things every day of the week. Of course you can do things. There's your proof. Then they're thinking about it. You see them thinking. They're thinking, oh my, yeah, right, yeah. And then they start getting a little bit better, and then they start recognizing the stuff themselves. So then they don't need some man on road be saying like, yeah, bro, you're a good shot. You're good at this. You're good at it. You're actually telling somebody that they're good because they haven't been excluded from school. They haven't had a detention, which is the stuff that's supposed to be quite important to kids because education is probably one of their key points of their life. Yeah. That is where most of the time when you're at school with these students, they go into your future with you. You make friends for life when you go to school. I mean, admittedly, I don't talk to any of my old school pals anymore. I don't live there no more. But if you're in that same place, in that same town, and you've been brought up there and you live there, guaranteed you're probably going to go into your 30s with someone you've been at school with. Yeah. So it's really important. It's a ground of where you're learning about life. It's supposed to be where you're learning about life. Admittedly, at the moment, funding within schools is pretty slack and they've got nothing there. But you just make do with what you can with school and make do with what friends you've got and follow suit. Just because people are knuckling down in their lesson, it don't mean that they're any more different to what you are. Why don't you follow suit and copy and do that? If you're struggling with certain things, ask for help and don't be scared to say to the teacher, I don't understand that word, miss. I don't understand that word, sir. It doesn't make you stupid. It makes you clever because you're asking for help because now you're going to know the answer.
There's a point to learn everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Regardless of what age you are.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Listen, we're learning every single day. Like, you learn something new every single day. Like, regardless of what it is. Something small, something big.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, you've just spoken a bit about how you've been stabbed in the past and things like that. And we were just wondering, sort of, could you talk a bit more about how that affected you mentally, physically, you got stabbed, but how that affected you sort of mentally on like a larger scale? And do you feel like you received the support that you needed, whether that the first, second or so time that you were stabbed? Do you feel like you got the support you needed in terms of sort of getting out that lifestyle, getting out that sort of
cycle
in your life?
Nah, because I think so. How that all started. So we had like issues with estate to estate and stuff, and so originally, first of all, my pal got stabbed and died. So when he died, that did hit me. It did hit me at the time. I mean, to be fair, at the time I didn't realise how much it had hit me. I've only just recently realised how much it hit me because I've only been speaking about it for a couple of years. And I'm like 40. I'm like in my 40s. So it happened when I was 15, 16 years old. So that was some time, considerable amount of time ago. But where I'd never spoken about it, because this is the thing, you see a lot of people do all these podcasts and they sit on and they talk about all their old crimes and they've done this and they've chefed this part and that. I don't go out and do any of that. That stuff's in the past. I don't need to bring that up to glamorize anything for kids to be watching podcasts and thinking, yeah, my man was on game, but I don't want you to think about that about me. And then to be fair, if you was involved in that such way, why the hell are you talking about it? It don't make no sense to me. Why do you want why do you want to portray yourself in that way? Do you know what I mean? So the only certain aspects of that I'll talk about are the relevant parts. Mm-hmm. The relevant parts of this is the risks that can come with it. Not many people are lucky. I'm lucky I survived. My pal weren't lucky, he died. Do you know what I mean? So there's nothing to glamorize about it. Do you know what I mean? So when my pal lost his life because of somebody else, and he was not even involved in what was happening at that time. Somebody got robbed, And because of the person that he was hanging around with, that none of us liked anyway, because he was a bookie character, and he was seen with him, and because he was seen with him at that time, these people have driven by, they've seen us all stood there or sat down on the wall, and then they've decided to like come flying up, pull up, and then just ran straight up my pal. And obviously, so you've got three people run like out of a car with knives, you're off, you're gonna run, everyone's gonna do that. But my pal didn't, he froze and he just stuck there, and then unfortunately he died. So at that time, when you're seeing something like that and someone takes their last breath on your legs, you like, it didn't, I don't think it didn't, it only hit me a few years ago, because that's when I allowed it to hit me, because I've taken so many drugs in my life that blocks everything out for me. So when I stopped taking drugs, all of this stuff started to come back, and I started to remember a lot more things, because there's so many different things that I ain't even spoken about on podcasts that's there, but it's whether when the right time to be bringing it up in a conversation for podcasts of when that is. And sometimes in my podcast, there's only certain things that will pop up, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, actually, da-da-da-da-da. So he lost his life, and then he was my best mate anyway. My son, my 16-year-old, is named after my best mate. So I've kept his name going, do you know what I mean? But then I was thinking, like, when I first ever spoke about it on a podcast, it broke me down. I broke down, and I've never done that before. And I usually like sit there and I hold it quite well. And I don't know what was going on with me that day. I must have been tired or something, because I literally was weeping at the camera, and I was just like, what is going on? I was looking at my pal for support, like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? It's just like, it was really weird. And I'd never been through that before. It was just very strange. So it was obviously something that had affected me. And I don't think many people can say that they've sat there on a floor with your pal with claret everywhere, with him rolling his eyes dying on you. Do you know what I mean? Not many people can actually say that unless you're involved in some madness. So that, from that point, my head kind of spun in a different direction from them. And obviously, the people ask that question, did you get revenge? Did you get revenge? And that's the first thing that ever comes into people's minds. And the thing is, like, really, like, if you're looking at people that are prepared to be jumping out of cars with massive knives to be shoving it through your pal, well, why would you, the first thing you'd be thinking of revenge? You'd be thinking, I'm avoiding these people, because they're going to, if they can do that to him, they're going to do it to other people. Yeah. So admittedly, these people need to get dealt with, as to say, but that never happened. It wasn't that kind of party. Do you know what I mean? So after that, I was with a few of my other mates, and there was a couple of these boys that come walking underneath this little subway, and I used to get egged on quite a lot. You tell me, like I said earlier, you tell me to put a hand in a fire and I'll go and do it. And then one of these boys was like, "Oh, that's my man. He's not even from. Go and whack him up." Okay, so that's what I did, and I ended up having a scrap with this kid, and his mate ran off, left him, as they do, because it does happen. And this is another thing I say to kids that I work with. Don't think these are your boys, you know. Like, if shit hits the fan, they're going to run off and leave you. And I've been there, I've seen it with my own eyes. It does happen. People that think they're so bad and that, and then they run off and they just leave them to get wasted by other people. Yeah. And then his mate ran off and left him. And then about 2 weeks after that, I had to go to their side of the estate, because I smoked weed back then. And where I said we didn't have mobiles, I had to use a payphone. I phoned up like the guy that I usually phone, and he didn't even have any anyway. So, and that was a waste of time even going. And then I got shouted. I heard someone shout me, so I've like looked behind. As I've looked behind, there was like 5 lads, and as you do, you're like looking through the lads of who's who, and what the boy that was there that I'd had the fight with, and he was in the middle of them. And then I was in a bit of a catch-22 situation. Like, do I look like a melt and just chip off, or do I just stick with it and just take a beating? And I decided to stick and take the beating, but I didn't expect to get stabbed at the same time. So, because weapons weren't used with Geezer, do you know what I mean? He got punched. I'd never used a weapon on him. And then, so then that's when I got jumped, and then a lady had shouted up at the window, because I got battered as well. They literally was kicking me, punching me. I got wasted. And then I felt this like thud to my legs. That's where my thing is there. And I felt this thud to my leg. And it, like when you're kids, you used to mess about and you used to dead leg people, and you give yourself a dead leg, each other dead legs with your knees and that really hard. And it's like, oh, you can't even stand on your leg for a bit. That's what it felt like. So when this woman had shouted, I'd started getting like this weird pain going up and down my body, and I felt like pins and needles in my toes. And as I looked down, that's when I saw it. I'm like, your initial reaction to that is pull that out. That's your instant reaction. It's a foreign object that's in your body. Pull that out. That's what my plan must have been, but I must have collapsed. And then when the ambulance had turned up, my hand was still on it. This is what the surgeon had said, that your hand was still on it. He said, can I just say, like, if you would have pulled that out, you'd have bled out to death.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have gone, because you was millimeters away from your main artery. So he said, you want to count your lucky stars, because you would have been a goner. Because by the time the ambulance would have got there, you bleed out in 3 minutes. Like, that's every ounce of blood you've got in your body. So that was a very, very close call. Do you know what I mean? So, but then when that had happened, it did do me a little bit. Like, it made me a little bit funny in the head, because I was, you know, being told that you just nearly died and you was in hospital for a little amount of time. I think I was in a coma for a couple of days. Like, they put me out, and they had to do an operation with it still in my leg. So obviously they had to be really careful, because if that moved, that's why my scar's a little bit funny, because of the way they had to take it out. And yeah. So then after that, it was like a, what do you call it? Like a badge of honour, really, walking around with a bit of a limp. Do you know what I mean? All your boys was like, oh, yeah, well, you know, you're all right. You got to stay. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. But when you look back, you think, what a knob. Like, what a knob. Like, you literally just nearly lost your life. Do you know what I mean? And you're fist pumping people, walking around with a limp.
It's like the movies, though, isn't it? Like, stuff like that. It's literally what you see in, like, you know, all these, like, Netflix series and stuff. Top Boy. When some of them get stabbed, oh, yeah, I got stabbed. Yeah. But really?
Don't get me wrong, Top Boy is good. I like Top Boy. It's a good series. Some of it's a little bit far-fetched, but some of it is real. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can actually look at it, and some things I relate to. I'm like, mate, like, that is so... The way that they've done their directing and their production and everything that they've done on that, they've had some good people running that, because they've got some bits down to a T, do you know what I mean? And when you look at some of the people that are involved in it, they've all been there and done it themselves.
Yeah.
So it's easier to play a character you've been. Do you know what I mean? It's so much easier. I mean, you ask me to play a character of that such, I'll smash it, because that's what I'm used to.
You did it inside prison series or something.
What, Britain Behind Bars?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I kind of saw like a little bit of it.
Yeah, so that's that. So the whole point, the reason why, so I was supposed to do that Banged Up for Channel 4.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that as well.
I'm glad I didn't do that like that, because that just completely was just that would have been a pure embarrassment to my life if I'd have done that, because some of that stuff was just so like, you fucking idiot. It doesn't, because when you're doing these filming things, not like the one that I've done with like the Rob Rinder thing, that was like what you saw is what you got. Like, I got asked questions and I answered them, and then they give you bits of paper for old school days where they've got prisoners writing things, and like where they've been planning on taking their own lives, for example. They're writing their letters to their families and stuff. That was genuine, like that. Like, you know, they're interviewing you and getting your reaction on that. But then when you're looking at shows like that, with the Banged Up show, a lot of that is director in your ear. Maybe it might be a good idea for you to go over and flip that table and cause a little bit of chaos, because then it looks good for camera. But then what you're actually giving is the wrong impression of actually, no, because jail's not even like that.
Yeah.
It ain't like that. Yeah, you might get some nutter sometimes that starts kicking off and starts, you know, causing chaos with the screws and that. But on a daily basis, all that stuff's kept under wraps, because you don't want screws too much attention on the landings, because you've got phones and drugs. And like, if you're causing all chaos like that, you're going to have screws all over the place. That's now going to bait you up. You're going to get your phone taken away from you. None of us want that. So I was just, And when I watched some of it back, I was like, mate, thank God I didn't go in there, because that would have literally completely just discredited me completely. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
What do you think the impact of increased policing is having on London right now with everything that's going on?
Increased policing? What, have you got increased policing, have you?
We got increased policing. I can't lie. Even coming here alone, I saw probably about 10, 11 police cars. Like, just today.
But are they on foot, though?
They're not on foot. That's the thing.
But do you know what I don't understand, though? How is this stuff still happening if there is increased policing?
Do you know what I think they're doing? And this is honestly, like, I don't want to, like, this is not factual, but this is what, just my own, like, brain. I think they are increasing police, but they're increasing police in certain areas. So the police end up then targeting certain people. And you're not...
Do you mean like racially profiling?
Not just racially profiling, like just even working class people, whether that be white, black, Asian, whatever. You're targeting a certain group of people. And whilst, okay, obviously, naturally in working class communities, there is a more increased rate of crime statistically, but sort of put more increased police in central London, for example, like where there's a lot of mugging happening. There is a lot of gangs in central London as well. Like it's sort of like, well, I say gangs, but sort of gang centralized
It's organised crime though, really.
It's
is what
yeah,
you're looking
exactly.
at.
But
Because they're doing, let's say for Kensington and Chelsea, organised crime is for watches, mobile phones, bags.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
my
seen a
dad
lot
got
of them.
robbed.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It happens. Mayfair, where all the rich people are going out having their meals and they're coming out of their restaurants with their Louis bags or Louis little side bag things that they've got with their Rolex watches that they've just been into, what's it called? Shish. You know, that restaurant?
yeah.
I'd like to go there myself. But you've got like people that are coming out of restaurants like that and they're wearing the jewellery that they're wearing. Open targets.
It's not
Yeah.
safe. Like,
Of course it's not. But
It's-
how
it's
bad is
not.
it though that you can't, you earn your money, you wear nice watches and nice jewellery and nice clothes and you can't go out for a nice meal with your missus without running the risk of someone coming
Yeah.
past on a bike, stabbing you to take your
this is
watch.
why it's not worth it. Like, genuinely, it's not worth
But
it.
yet
It's
you go
not-
to Dubai and you can walk around
Yeah,
anywhere with
Exactly,
anything.
wearing anything,
Anything.
driving any car,
No drama
your car won't-
whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys see? It was a video maybe a few months ago. I can't remember what car it was. I want to say Aston Martin. It was a really nice car. Maybe it wasn't Aston Martin, but it was in London. And they tried, two guys in a moped tried to like smash the window. And I think they were trying to obviously get
With the
get
knife?
key.
Did they have a
Yeah, I
knife,
think-
like a buck?
I think
buck
it
of
was
the
a knife, but it wasn't an Aston Martin though. It was a really expensive car. I forgot the name of the
but
car.
if you look at like Amir Khan, he got robbed. They
Yeah,
put a
yeah.
gun in his face.
Yeah, he did, he did.
In London, they put a gun in his face
Him
to
and
try
his
and take
wife,
his
I
watch.
think, yeah.
Yeah, with his wife. You had the famous footballer that got out of his Mercedes Jeep that he had, trying to take his watch. So they're trying to, because if you look at all the organised crime groups that are going around stealing mobile phones, their mobile phones go to one place, China. So if you look at when they're doing their Find My iPhone stuff, where they're trying to find out where these phones have gone, they're all going to a specific area in China, every single one of them. So it's an organised thing. Now, they can make a lot of money each week from each mobile phone
Yeah.
that they're taking. And if they set out and they're stealing 10 mobile phones a day, they can make about 10 to 20,000 pound a week just by stealing mobile phones from people. And the way that they're doing it now, you got to be very, very careful when you're in the streets. And I'm careful myself. I know about all this stuff, but I'm careful of like knowing how to hold my phone when I'm walking through London.
Can
And
they
I'm not
just
even
snatch
from
it off
London.
you, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they just take it from you because your head is so entrenched in your phone for whatever reason. Social media, again, do you know what I mean? You're so entrenched on that rather than what's going on around you. Someone has just seen you just from going up the road there thinking, oh my God, look at her, headphones in. And her phone's just like that. He's then swooped back round, and as he's come up, boom, your phone's gone.
And he's gone with it.
But
Yeah.
again, you never think, like, you always think it's not going to be me. Like, it's always in the back of my head, it's not going to be me. But one day,
Until it is you.
It will
and it
be
will
you.
be. If you're not, you've got to be really, really cautious about what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think when you're saying about the police presence and stuff, I think London, if you're looking at London, yeah, there is a lot of police about in London, but they're all in cars. Now, when I go to London, the amount of police cars I see go by me, blue lighting or not blue lighting,
Yeah.
but I don't see any on the street. So
I've never seen any
You don't
on the
see
street.
bobbies anymore, like walking the beat. You don't see that. And what you do see is you've got like gang police that are out and about in unmarked cars, and they do racially profile. Of course they
There's
do.
so many of
but,
them.
But you'll see them and they'll pull up. You'll see like 3 or 4 black youths, or you'll see a few Turkish boys, and they'll jump out. And they'll grab them up quickly and they'll put them up against the wall and try to use the fact, oh, yeah, you fit the description of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's just an excuse to pull you over and search you. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? In some senses, it's a good thing because sometimes they'll catch them with weapons or they'll catch them with drugs, whatever. But then other senses, some of these boys are coming home from work and they've
They're
got
like
a
good
job
boys, some
and
of
they've
them.
done
They
nothing
got a
wrong.
job, yeah.
So, but then you kind of like, how can you work it out? Because they just got to be very, very careful with who they're doing it to, because you'll look at the complaint system within the police system now with the amount of complaints that they have made against them. It's not helping them. It's not actually favouring them for doing a good job of keeping the streets safe, because they're using their role as a how can I put it? They're just not going the right way about it. But I think going around in a car, you should be on foot. And now, because let's say, for example, I'm walking down the street outside here now and there's an alleyway. I could be down that alleyway, but a police car just drives straight past, but yet someone's still being robbed in there with a machete.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that unless you're on foot.
Yeah,
So what's the car going to do? The car's not going to do anything. So this is where the beats should happen. The funding should be going to get the police back on the streets and in the cars. But they're doing hotspot policing. So you've got like hotspot policing where they're only concentrating solely on high statistical areas where these crimes are most likely to happen. And this is where, when we go with the bleed kits that we're putting up, there's statistical areas where the crimes are likely to happen. And that's where you'll put them up, because then they're socially acceptable, rather than me putting, let's say I went to go put one up in Mayfair, people will be like, why are you putting one up in Mayfair for? We ain't got knife crime.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you still got people being robbed for their watches and their wallets and their phones and probably even their cars. Well, that's still high risk, really, because it's quite a well-to-do area. Rather than they'll turn around and say, well, would it make sense for you to go and put one up in Brixton? Why? Well, just because it's called Brixton and because that's the only area you have it hear on the news or whatever. But actually, I don't really hear much happening in Brixton. You always hear about it happening in elsewhere, Trafalgar Square, Leicester Square, but West End.
It's all the rich areas, like.
Do you know what I mean? So they're moving their dramas away from their boroughs, and they're bringing it into more central London, Westminster. Like that's where they're bringing it to.
So where are your bleed kits actually getting put up right now?
So I've got 17 cabinets currently up in the UK. Most of them are in Sussex because that's where I live.
Yeah, of
but I've got 3 up in London. So I've got 1 up at St Paul's Cathedral. I don't know if you know Paternoster Square. No. So you've got St Paul's Cathedral here, like that, and you've got an estate that as you come down the steps of St Paul's, you can walk and go through like an archway. That goes onto like a really nice new estate. But on that new estate, there's still risks of like terrorism, for example, or you've got phone snatchers, bag snatchers, whatever happens around that area. So I've got 1 cabinet there, and then I've got 2 cabinets at London Bridge City. So where HMS Belfast is, I've got 1 down there on the, it's a mass estate that goes all the way down. Where the old mayor of London's office used to be, he's moved now, but where his old office is, I've got 2 cabinets down there. One of them cabinets was actually used a month ago to save someone for a bottle attack. So it's proven that they work. Do you know what I mean?
So how do they work? Because I did see a little clip, but I didn't properly watch it. So I thought
So
I'd ask you.
what happens? So inside the kits. So for London, for example, we've kind of upgraded the kits a little bit and we've made them into multi-injury bags. So because there's more for London, for example, you've got higher risk for more gang attacks and terrorist attacks. Yeah. So when you're looking at, let's say, the NHS, they will deal with the most injured of patients, for example, especially when it comes to a terrorist attack. If you've got someone that's been stabbed once in the leg or someone that's been stabbed 6 times in the stomach, they're going to deal with the one that's been stabbed 6 times in the stomach, and hopefully the one with the leg will do okay for a minute until that one's been dealt with. So when it comes to the bleed kits that's inside, we have like 4 to 5 of the same items in one bag. So if there's 4 patients can be looked after with exactly the same products that's inside. So for like mass bleeding, if you've got like a mass bleed of the arm or of the leg, you'll use a tourniquet, depending on how high the wound is, because you have to go 5 centimeters above the wound when you're doing the strap. So you'll strap that, and that will contain the bleed. You won't be bleeding out, because if you're in the leg, it could be a main artery bleed. It's literally just gonna squirt for ages, and you need to wrap that up pretty quickly. And then you've got items inside so there's chest seals in there. So if you've got a wound to the chest, so you'll put the chest seal across over the top of that wound. So the product that we have, we deal with one of the main leading manufacturers of the country that send products to war zones. So Ukraine, Palestine, wherever there's a war, this company called Celox will send products over to that country because it's the best in the business. And what these chest seals do, they stop air going into the wound, because then you can have, risks of cardiac arrest, for example. If air gets into the lungs, your lungs will collapse, etc., etc. But what the product does, it allows air to come out. So it has loads of valves that's on the chest seal that will stop it going in, but will allow it to come out. So there's not that much pressure going on in the chest cavity. Then we have these gauzes that they've got a clotting agent on the gauze. So when you're packing the wound with the gauze, it clots your blood in 60 seconds. There's some that go around the country that clot in 3 minutes, but you can bleed in 3 minutes and every ounce of blood that you've got. So we found a product that was quicker. So we've managed to find the 60-second clotting agent. So we've now, again, through the same company, Celox. So, and bearing in mind, you've got to think they deal with like IED blasts and all sorts, do you know what I mean? So they are a really, really good company. And we've got like the tourniquet. So we try to look at people with disabilities, for example. Now, if you've got someone that's got arthritis and their fingers are stuck like that, if they're going to try and use your average, have you ever seen a tourniquet before? So like the straps, some of them are Velcro. Yeah, some of them can be like Velcro, and you could like, it'll go, and then you wrap it around and tighten it as hard as you can tighten. But you have to keep wrapping it around the leg. Now, if you've got someone that's been injured in a car crash, for example, the chances of you keep lifting up their leg to keep putting a tourniquet around it, it's going to be painful for that patient. And not only that, if their leg is stuck in a position, that could be potentially stopping the bleed anyway because it's stuck in a position. So if you lift that leg up to constantly keep putting a strap around it, you're probably going to end up killing them anyway. So we try to find a better solution for a tourniquet to make it more easier and more accessible for members of the public to use. Simple. And we found one called a rapid tourniquet, which all as you've got is just one strap that you push around the bottom of the leg, you connect it to this metal clasp, you pull, and then you use a ratchet, and it just goes just like, you know, like lorries when they put that mesh across and you just tighten it. That's basically what we've got, but as a tourniquet instead. So it makes it really simple. So there's a video that's on YouTube with someone that's got one arm that manages to do it with his elbow, because it's like easy to use. So for someone that's actually got arthritis with their fingers, they'll still be able to use it even though they can't use their fingers correctly. So we've just tried to make the kit. We've just basically made a Gucci bleed kit, really. So
it sounds like it.
Yeah.
But I think
they're beneficial.
I think they should be put around because there's so much that's going on. Like just from the statistics that we've shared today, like
when I was younger, I used to hear about people getting stabbed at my local station all the time. Someone got stabbed outside your house. Remember that time where you said you saw someone carrying a body or something?
Oh no, that was bags of weed. The neighbor, I don't even
want
to talk about this.
Carrying a body, but it's bags of weed.
I swear to God, I saw the CCTV, and they're holding it. It looked like a body. I kid you not. A month later, I look outside my window. Police are surrounding everywhere, and it was a weed farm basically.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't a body.
Which are mostly run by Filipinos and Chinese.
Do you know what? It was.
Or people from Thailand.
The guys next to my house
I
were
don't even know
Filipino,
who
I
it
think.
was,
They had a weed farm. My dog used to sneak in there and eat
But
their
what they
weeds.
do, they're part of like organised crime groups. They're only sitters.
Basically,
So they'll have to sit in that house for months. They can't
let's
even
be
But then
leave.
they take that rap anyway. They take
but
the
you
rap.
see the boss or whoever it is, they're not going to be putting their life at
No
risk.
way. And they'll get paid pennies for doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, once that grow's finished, that'll be probably £1 million.
So that was the grow then. It wasn't the body. It was the. Yeah, I can't lie. I was thinking,
She called me. She was like, "Someone's got stabbed. That someone's dead. They're carrying a dead body." I was like,
it's because AJ thought the same thing. Like my friend, he thought the same thing because he's the one who sent me the footage.
I think when you're looking at, look, it's not getting any better in the UK. Knife crime, we can constantly go, well, I could probably come on here in 3 months' time and say exactly the same things I'm saying now, because nothing's really changing. Because the thing is, when you're looking at priorities of what the UK is concentrating on, they're not concentrating on that. They're concentrating on other stuff that don't really concern us. Do you know what I mean? And if it does concern us, in what sense does it concern us?
Yeah.
So I've got nothing against people with their wars and stuff like that. But like, you've got reasons to be going into war, whatever that reason is. Does that affect me? Nah, not really. It don't affect me. Although you can feel bad about countries having war because the destruction that you're seeing. How unfair is it to have women and children? You're seeing women and children dying on a regular basis for what? For what? For people that rule that country's ego. That's how I see it, as egos. And if you look at Prime Minister, presidents, they all have an ego boost towards each other. Who's harder and who's stronger than each other, just like you have on road with different gangs.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. So how can you sit there and say you shouldn't be going out there and running gangs and you're the name of that postcode and you shouldn't be out there stabbing this person, you shouldn't be out there shooting this person? But hold on a minute, we see you lot doing it on the news every single day. Why is it okay for you? Why is it okay for you to invade countries because you want their oil, for example? Why is it okay for you to do that? It's nothing different. We're just doing it in the streets of the UK, but you're telling us we can't, but yet you're going and invading someone else's country. And it's not even your country. Why are you doing that?
There's no good example set, though.
There's no
Like,
good example.
Like, there's countries like, you know, I heard about, was it Denmark or Switzerland? One of them. First of all, their prisons are beautiful.
yeah,
I would sit in there.
It was
Like, I
Sweden,
would just
wasn't it?
sit there.
Sweden.
Like,
I think Sweden
not
is the
even for a
happiest
prison
country too.
sentence. I would just sit there. Like, it probably looks more spacious than my room.
Listen, prison,
But even-
like, I don't think...
But
there's no
even not even
rehabilitation,
prison,
bro.
not even prison, because I think even we look at where like certain people like immigration centers and things like that, that's a prison, and that's not a nice place to be in. Full stop. I think like people in sort of like prime ministers, presidents, etc. Their focus is not on the people. Their focus on, like you said, it's their ego, and it's sort of who can look like the bigger man. And unfortunately, when you're on road, obviously your family's affected or the people that you love are affected. Whereas with them, they're not just affecting themselves; they're affecting everybody in the country.
And that's the thing. And how far will it go for them to understand that their behaviours and what they're attempting to achieve is going to affect everybody in the world? And it is. And can you say that we're already in World War III? Yes, I think we are personally. It's not at that point yet, because if you look at World War II, it took a good 3 years before it actually got to the point of where it was a full-blown war. We're in that same position now. But as you're seeing now, there's different... If you look at most Middle Eastern countries, they're all at war with each other. So it's already started at that point. We're not in Europe yet. Europeans haven't actually started within the war, but Europeans are involved in the Middle Eastern war. So we are involved in war. There is a war.
Yeah.
It just hasn't hit our
And now we have
islands yet.
social media as well. Like,
Yeah, of course.
everything's on social media. Let's be honest. Like,
I
we
don't
all
agree
give
with
our
war
opinions on
at
it too
all.
now.
Why do we have to war? I don't get it. Why do people... And people always use the word that there's always collateral damage when it comes to war. Yeah, there is, but why does there have to be? Why do we have to see innocent children dying? Why do we have to see just innocent anybody, to be honest with you? Because these people that are in these Middle Eastern countries that are getting bombed and their families are dying, what are they dying for? They don't want to die. They don't want to have their houses blown up for nothing, or hospitals that are being attacked, and then you get a country saying, "Oh, it was an accident." Well, it's a little bit too late for an accident, mate, because you've just literally killed 300 people, and half of them were babies. So how can you justify that? There's no justification for it. And I think, I just think it's just unethical and it's unacceptable. And I just don't. I think if you look at the news now is just filled with depressing stuff. It's always about something that someone's done, or some poor person's died or passed away. Someone's been stabbed to death. This person's bombed this place and they've now died. They've just found a mass grave heir, or they've done... There's nothing really that's positive on news anymore. And I think when we're trying to look at our kids that are growing up now and our generation, this is what they're growing up with. Yeah. This is what they're growing up to see. How can we expect our young people to not have mental health issues? Because they're going to have them, trust me. And if everything that they're seeing online or on social media is just death and destruction, how do you think their minds are going to be? Because they're still learning. Their brains are still going until they're like 25 years old. They soak it up like sponges. And then that's going to go on into their later life. How is that acceptable? It's just not. And I think the way that we're trying to change our kids' mindsets to do the right thing and make the right choices. And that if we're not doing that as adults, how can we expect them to do the same thing?
Yeah.
Lead by example, innit?
And I think on that note, I think that's
You're
a
done,
very
yeah?
good way. No, but I think there's so much we could talk to you about. Honestly, we could sit here from today till tomorrow. And I think we should definitely have another sit down.
Yeah,
at
I think
some
we
point
need
and
a part 2. I think it was a bit short-lived, this
very
one.
short. I think if you see our questions,
Usually I
we've
do
got
about 3 hours.
We've
a
still-
list
yeah,
of questions.
we need-
yeah,
we need
but I think on that note, I think guys, do your research.
TWOSADUO.
TWOSADUO, yeah.
Check them out,
Check
because
their
they have
page.
some interesting stuff on their page. Like,
Definitely.
educational. Like, I think everyone needs to go check it out. But on that note, give the outro and let's do it.
Guys, stay pretty, stay psycho, stay watching Pretty Psycho Podcast.